Westside Jeff is the name, in for Chris Crock here on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Chris is filling in for Casey this week, and I'm sitting in Chris's chair while he covers for Casey. And I'll be back in again next 2 weeks, actually, covering for vacations also. My story is I'm born and raised up in the state of Ohio, born and raised in Columbus, Ohio, and fell into radio. I'm just a regular guy that have an opinion. And program director once, I was in his office, we were talking, and he had a need for something, and the guy that normally would do something wasn't there, and he said, "You want to do a show?" And I said, "Sure." He said, "What do you talk about?" I told him, and he said, "What happens if you get no calls?" I said, "Mike, how many times have I been in your office? You want to kick me out because I'm bugging you, talking too much?" And there was dead silence, seemed like about 10 seconds, and he said, "Okay, you're on, go." And the rest is history. Just a regular guy with a regular opinion. That's what I do. And when I run into people and who have listened to me before, and they say, what's your show all about? And they don't know me very well. And I just say it's pretty simple. I just give common sense opinion on current events because common sense is missing. And that's what we need more than ever in our lives, common sense. A couple things I want to talk about real quick. Highlight some things in case you didn't catch the news. I always tell you got to be concerned about what I call the Friday afternoon news dump. There's a time in place in life you got to really be careful, and you got to really, really watch the news because crap gets buried. If there's a story that somebody wants out, just so they can say, "Well, we put it out, you didn't see it." If you want to get a story buried, you do it on a Friday afternoon at 3 or 4 or 5 o'clock because people aren't paying as much attention over the weekend as they would during the weekday. If you want to get a story buried, you do it on a Friday at 3 or 4 or 5 o'clock on a holiday weekend or going into a holiday. And if you want to do it even more so, you do it at a time during vacation season. So we got a trifecta. So I always tell you got to really be aware, self-aware. You got to keep an eye on life because as we are a week out from Christmas, 10 days, and as we are at a time when kids are getting out of schools for Christmas, and as we're at a time where we are more concerned about Christmas shopping, this is that time you got to be really pay attention to that Friday afternoon news dump. Well, guess what the dump was over this weekend? And if you're an avid News Talk fan, you know. But if you're not, you don't. Not sure what I'm talking about. So ABC News will pay $15 million to a presidential foundation and museum in a settlement reached with President-elect Donald Trump. As the story goes, George Stephanopoulos, he ended yesterday's show of his program called This Week, his program without any mention of him or ABC News settling Donald Trump's defamation lawsuit against them. Now, the suit was triggered by a segment on This Week, that's the name of the show, but ABC News has not reported that on ABC News. Of course, they're not going to do that. They're going to bury it. They're not going to talk about it. Its agreement is to pay $15 million to Trump's presidential foundation. The quiet approach on the air is keeping with the network's attitude toward this settlement as it goes. As the reality is this problem needed to go away for them. And one of the ABC executives on condition of anonymity said, we just need the problem to go away. But speculation about ABC and agreed to settle and why now and why such an expense has not gone away. People are talking about it across social media saying, okay, we know this case validates Trump's claim that the media is against him, that the media lies about him. The media doesn't tell the full story about him. They don't like Trump and they want to bury Trump. And Stephanopoulos is one of those. Now, according to court documents, ABC and Trump's team agreed to the settlement terms last Friday. Again, Friday afternoon news dump. The settlement terms are often kept confidential in these things, just like NDAs, which they are, but not this time. A court filing on Saturday, again, that Friday and Saturday afternoon news dump, the court filing on Saturday effectively announced that the payout and ABC's apology enabling Trump's allies to publicly celebrate. So why now? Why is this going on now? You know, I did some research. I had to do some digging. I talked to some attorney friends about this, and a couple things come to light. First and foremost is they wanted to settle this before it went to court. I'll tell you why in 60 seconds. But they wanted to do it now. They wanted to do it on going into Christmas because they know you and I are more, our eyeballs and our ears are more focused on family and the birth of Christ and Christmas gifts and celebrations, and not the fact that the news media has been beaten on Trump and ABC is acquiescing and saying, yeah, we're at fault for some misinformation here, and we're going to pay $15 million to the Trump Presidential Library. So I went across the web and looked up all kinds of stuff, and I found one person. It was an attorney who is a trial attorney at a big firm. His comment was, in my experience, when media defendants are unsuccessful at the dismissal stage of the case, which is what happened here, they focus on preparing for summary judgment to challenge the legal sufficiency of a plaintiff's case or their claim. He said it begs the question as to why ABC settled before the summary judgment stage. He also went on to say you would have to consider whether the discovery process unearthed emails or other internal ABC data to damage the network's case. My experience is this. I used to work for another big broadcasting company across the country, and certainly the years that I put in there were lawsuits that I got that obligatory note email from corporate that said, due to conditions and actions going on, you from here on out are we demand that you keep all emails, all written communication with anything to do with X, Y, and Z, and you are legally held to do that, and you cannot destroy them or delete them, and you're punishable and prosecutable if you do. What that's the code on that is this: somebody somewhere filed a lawsuit, and the company doesn't want you just deleting stuff once they've been sued, because they want to go back and look through all the records. And if you do something like that, then you can lose your job and you can actually be prosecuted for that. So at that point, the company is looking for all emails, all communication, anything that has to do with it. They're basically looking for consideration, and they go through a process to unearth any communication with any of that in any email. So they search anything with those words in it. My guess is through the discovery phase of this process, ABC saw some stuff that didn't look good, that they knew was going to come out if they went to trial and make them look worse. And they decided, let's write a check for $15 million, sweep it under the rug. Oh, by the way, let's break this news on a Friday afternoon news dump going into a holiday weekend when kids are out of school so we can bury the story. Bet you didn't hear that story unless you're really a avid news talk fan. ABC, that in essence, they didn't admit guilt. They just said they were a little wrong on that. And George Stephanopoulos was on yesterday, never mentioned anything about it. So, of course, ABC News settling with Donald Trump for $15 million. Pretty interesting story. Goes to prove and validate what Trump has said all along. Proves his validity that the media are out to get him. And that just validates what you and I have thought all along. Got to hit a break on the other side of this. I want to talk about what the Supreme TikTok did late today, just before I went on the air, with regard to the Supreme Court and why that's an important issue and how that applies to what we're going through today in this country. And it may tie back to DroneGate. I'll tell you what I'm getting at in about 3.5 minutes. My name is Jeff. It's Westside Jeff, in for Chris Crock on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. A few minutes ago, I shared a story that police at DFW International Airport have said that approximately 52 cars worth nearly $5 million have been stolen by an organized crime group. And what they're doing, according to the Dallas News, I saw a story in the Dallas News a week or so ago, said several people have been accused of working together to steal vehicles from DFW. And it's not just here in North Texas, it's also in other airports across many other states. I'm born and raised up in Ohio, Columbus, Ohio. It's happening at the airport up there, Airport Columbus up in Ohio. It's also happening, it's been reported down in Houston, as well as airports in New Mexico, Nevada, and Utah. Not long ago, 3 guys were arrested. Police were able to, the investigation gained momentum in October when 3 men were arrested thanks to the use of a license plate reader, which alerted police of a suspected vehicle entering the airport. The police pulled it over, identified 3 people in there who had been involved in similar activities in other states. They had many key fobs with them and a reprogrammable device. That's a problem. For that reason, I would not be parking at the airport. I'm not traveling out of town for the holidays or in business anytime soon. And if I were, I'd be getting a ride to the airport or Uber. I would not be driving my vehicle and leave it at the airport because of the theft of organized crime ring. I looked across the country at several other states, and in many areas, the law enforcement's not gotten any closer to it than Dallas. The DFW folks here are more on top of it than anywhere, with at least identifying those 3 people they arrested. But they identified there's more than those 3. I got a message from a listener, Jim. Jim, thanks for sending it to me. My name is Jeff, by the way. It's Westside Jeff. You can hit me up across social media like Jim did, on Facebook at Westside Jeff, also on X and Instagram. And Jim said, "Hey, Jeff, yes, airport car theft has been an issue for some time now. Here's what I recommend for family and friends." He said, "It's a pain in the butt to do, but this will work for you." And that is, he said, once you park your vehicle at the airport, if you have to drive there and park, Jim recommends parking at the, if you have to do that, is once you're parked at the airport, remove the battery from your vehicle. So open the hood, take the battery out, and then lock it in the trunk or in the car covered somewhere. Lock it in your vehicle, whether it be trunk or somewhere else. And he said thieves typically won't take time to pick a lock, and odds are they won't be carrying spare batteries. So yeah, Jim, thank you for sharing that. It's a good recommendation. I'm sure that'll work for some. In essence, comes back to the concept of hard target, soft target. And if you make it more work for a thief to steal your vehicle, it's less likely to steal the vehicle. So that's a good tip. But my tip is I ain't driving to the airport and leaving my vehicle, because organized crime is going on across the country. It's especially here in Dallas, as evidenced by the story from Dallas News that they've arrested 3 guys in October and identified that 52 vehicles worth nearly $5 million have been stolen by organized crime groups at DFW. So my attitude is don't drive for me, I ain't driving my vehicle. You just need to be aware of this. That's going on here at DFW. It's going on not only here, but other airports across the country. So be very careful, because these criminals have many fobs with them. They've got dozens of extra fobs, and they can reprogram them, and they go up and down the aisles of the airport and click open and unlock and so on and start. And when they hit on one, they get in the vehicle and they just pull it out. Nobody knows that they're stealing it, and not always do cameras catch it. So, Jim, thanks for your tip. I appreciate it very much. Late today, the TikTok, an emergency appeal filed late today, seeks to delay a law that would ban the video sharing platform nationwide if TikTok doesn't divest from its Chinese parent company. Pretty interesting story. The company's application asks that the Supreme Court, to put the January 19th divest or ban deadline on hold until the justices resolve TikTok's First Amendment claims on their normal docket. Now, TikTok generally is used by those pretty much 45 and under, and especially those in their 30s. That's their primary go-to social media platform. Now, the act will shutter one of America's most popular speech platforms the day before the presidential inauguration, TikTok lawyers wrote in their application. They also wrote and said, this in turn will silence the speech of applicants and the many Americans who use the platform to communicate about politics, commerce, arts, and other matters of public concern. The platform asked the High Court to act by January 6th, roughly 2 weeks ahead of the potential ban, to provide app stores and internet hosting providers with enough time to comply if needed. Now, TikTok brought its fight to the justices after the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit rejected the company's legal challenge to the law and declined to delay the deadline until TikTok exhausts its appeal. That occurred about 9 days ago. The company emphasized in its filing Monday that President-elect Trump has expressed sympathy for the video sharing platform. An interim injunction is also appropriate because it will give the incoming administration time to determine its position as the president-elect, and the advisors have voiced support for saying TikTok, according to their attorneys. They go on to say that Trump voiced opposition to the divest or ban law, a campaign trail, and promised to save TikTok. When asked Monday during his press conference whether he would take steps to prevent the ban from taking effect, Donald Trump said, we'll take a look at it. He said, I have a warm spot in my heart for TikTok. I won youth vote by 34 points, and there are those that say that TikTok had something to do with it. My 2 cents worth is this. We've been told for a long time here, several months, that TikTok is dangerous. It's a Chinese company, and our government wants the Chinese to divest of it to American business or ban it in the United States. And my question is this. I want to know what the government knows about TikTok that they aren't sharing with us. Because I find it odd that the Biden administration has used TikTok all along. Kamala Harris used TikTok through the election, and Trump did too. If it were really that dangerous, would candidates have used TikTok? They're all over it. They're all over it. And if it's that dangerous, why would government agencies do it? Why does the U.S. government want to ban TikTok? Is there really a significant threat? And if so, is it really dangerous? And how is that different than any other Chinese threat with things made in China? For example, the iPhones are made in China. Listen, if TikTok were that dangerous, then they wouldn't sell iPhones. If Chinese were that dangerous, we wouldn't have iPhones in this country, because the Chinese could be putting little devices in those iPhones that would be just more dangerous than TikTok. Dell computers are assembled in China. Xbox consoles are assembled in China. HP printers are. I want to know what the government knows, because they've not convinced me that it's a real problem. I'm going to be watching that, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. 800-288-9227, 800-288-WBAP. My name is Jeff. It's Westside Jeff. Got to hit Bob in the Hour News. On the other side, let's continue the conversation about TikTok. And I want to talk about food. What food items do you associate with North Texas? When you think of North Texas, what food items do we associate with? My name's Jeff. It's Westside Jeff. In for Chris Crock on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Westside Jeff in for Chris Crock tonight. Chris is covering for Casey. I get a chance to sit in Chris's chair and speak into his mic, and I'm grateful for that opportunity. You can hit me up across social media at Westside Jeff, or pick up the phone and dial 800-288-9227. That's 800-288-WBAP. Late today, right before I went on the air, the Supreme Court had been lobbied by TikTok. An emergency appeal filed late today seeks, this is by TikTok, seeks to delay a law that would ban the video sharing platform nationwide if TikTok doesn't divest from its Chinese parent company. As the story goes on, the company's application asks the court to put the January 19th divest or ban deadline on hold until the justices resolve TikTok's First Amendment claims on their normal docket. So TikTok is is asking the Supreme Court to step in and to put that on hold so they can prove their case. Now, this has been going on for some time, that our government has come out for the last probably year or so and said, we need to ban TikTok. And it's actually been longer than a year, for a couple of years. In fact, Jim, a listener, hit me up across social media on Facebook, sent me a message. You can hit me on Facebook at Westside Jeff. He said, "Hey Jeff, I'm not creeping on you, but TikTok, I must first say I'm a true Trump supporter. However, Trump in his first administration was taking the stance of banning the platform. I don't use it and never will. But why the change? That's my question." Jim, thanks for hitting me up across Facebook. I don't have the answer to that. That's why I throw it out there. I'm curious what people have to say about that, because I find that odd too. I'm not sure why. But Jim, and my story, I like to give common sense opinion on current events. And my common sense just tells me, for the last several years, our government has been saying TikTok is bad. It's a social media platform owned by the Chinese. And for that reason, we've got to ban them. We've got to limit their freedom of speech. We can't give Americans access to that because it gives TikTok access to Americans and family and contacts and so on and so on. And there's a side of me who wants to say, what do you know that I don't know? And how is that different than Facebook? How's it different than what was Twitter, now X? How's that different than Instagram? How's it different than any other social media platform other than it's Chinese owned? So to me, there's two things. Number one, social media is social media, no matter what the platform. I got to believe that no matter who owns TikTok, whether it be Chinese or Americans or Russians, if TikTok is bad because TikTok on your phone gives the owner of that company access to your information, you're leaving cookies for them, you're leaving a trail for them, and also gives them content and contacts with all your contacts. I think that's one of their arguments, that in essence, if you're on TikTok and I'm not, or if you're on TikTok and I am, that the Chinese, the owners of TikTok, can get to me through you. Well, if that's the case, can't Facebook do the same? Who cares if it's American owned or not American owned? Can't X do the same? Elon's company? Again, I don't care if it's owned by Americans or not. So is the problem that it gives them access to a lot of other folks and private information? And by the way, what's so private about social media? If you're posting on social media, really? I mean, most of the posts on social media, especially on TikTok, are how-tos, do's. It's motion. It's video. A lot of times it's food related. It's social activities. Is that really that dangerous to share with China? Again, common sense is what I'm giving you. Common sense opinion. I'd love to hear your 2 cents worth on this at 800-288-9227. 800-288-WBAP. Westside Jeff in for Chris Crock. So my question is this. Is the problem with TikTok that a social media platform has access to what we are posting and all of our affiliated contacts and connections? Because if the answer to that is yes, then why wouldn't you have the same problem with the American ownership of Facebook, of Instagram, of LinkedIn, of Twitter, now X? Pick it. Pick the name of the social media platform. So I contend it's probably not the government's problem is that. Because if it is, it's the same thing. It's the same danger. It's the same threat. It's just an American company. We've already identified that sometimes those big social media platforms, hell, for the last couple of years, Trump has told us how bad Zuckerberg is because of what social media does to to limit, to censor freedom of speech. My second thing is this, or is the real problem that it's a Chinese-owned company? Is it because it's China? And if you're going to tell me it's China, then I contend, if you're going to tell me China's bad, then I contend that we also need to ban iPhones, because iPhones are manufactured in China, many of them. Then we need to ban Dell computers, because Dell computers are assembled in China. Then we need to ban Xbox, because Xbox is built in China. And we need to ban HP printers, because HP printers are built in China. All of those items I mentioned, iPhones, Dell computers, Xbox, and HP printers, can be more damaging than TikTok, because of the things that you could build into those electronic devices for snooping and watching people and what they do and where they do it. You see, I contend that my guess is, and a common sense opinion is, the problem isn't necessarily China. The problem isn't necessarily big tech platform. Is it possible? Let me pose this question. Is it possible that the national security threat that our government for the last several years has said that TikTok offers, that the national security threat was really the idea that TikTok might help Donald Trump win an election? Is that possible? Am I off on that? What's your take? What's your opinion? What's your thought? My name is Jeff. It's Westside Jeff, in for Chris Crock. My number is 800-288-9227. 800-288-WBAP. What's your opinion? Mine is, the government hadn't proven to me that TikTok is a real national security threat. I want to know what it is, because they ain't talking. Until they do, I can't go along with it and say yes. I wonder if it's possible that the national security threat they told me that TikTok provides might actually be the idea that TikTok just might have helped Donald Trump win the election, and it did. What's your opinion? What's your thought? How do you feel about it? Westside Jeff in for Chris Crock. 800-288-9227. 800-288-WBAP. Westside Jeff in, Chris Crock News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. So, Mark, thanks for reaching out to me. Mark shot me a note on Facebook. You can too, at Westside Jeff. Said, hey, Jeff, I think you're spot on with your analysis of TikTok. All other social media platforms, I believe, harvest our data and then either use it in their own advertising or sell it to whoever wants to. So I don't think there's really any privacy. He goes on to say, plus the owner of TikTok, or the biggest owner, lives in Singapore, but I believe the facility and all the computers and stuff are mainly in China. Spot on, Mark. I just give you common sense opinion on current events. I call BS on this TikTok thing, the ban of TikTok and the government wanting to shut down. I can't help but wonder if maybe the national security threat that our government has said that TikTok is might just be that it gives Donald Trump a voice to the younger voters, because the core people who are on TikTok are under the age of 45. And you talk to anybody that between 28 and 38, TikTok's your primary platform. You got to ask yourself, why do they want to ban TikTok? Because if they want to ban TikTok because it's a Chinese owned, then why don't they ban iPhones because they're manufactured in China? Why don't they ban HP printers because they're manufactured there? Dell computers, Xbox consoles, they're manufactured in China. And you could put all kinds of software and things in those devices. It could be more damning than TikTok. It just doesn't make sense. Something doesn't add up to me. I'd love to hear your perspective. Jim from Garland, thanks for calling. 800-288-9227. You're on with Westside Jeff. What's your thought on this story?
Hey, Jeff, a couple of things. First of all, the national security thing, that's just one more Democrat lie. on top of another. The thing is really, and you need to be you're looking 10 feet ahead. Look at the horizon. It's not just Trump. It's their ability to control U.S. media. Okay, and they want to make sure they have complete control of U.S. media, and they can't do it with TikTok. They can do it with Bezos, the Washington Post, ABC, NBC, CBS, and to a certain extent, even Fox. But they can't do it. They get Facebook through Zuckerberg and pull his chain and all of the others, because they're all controlled through U.S. multi-billionaires. So, but they can't do that, and they don't like it. So what are they going to do? They're going to call national security and hope people sit there and say, "Oh no, it's China."
Jim, you're a smart man. I appreciate you listening, and thank you for calling. So you're saying the same thing I am, and that is you're just as skeptical as I am, and your opinion is that TikTok, because it's a Chinese-owned company, our U.S. government can't control the narrative and the message with TikTok. Makes all the sense in the world. Again, I contend that if TikTok were truly a national security threat, really, then you got to tell me why, because I'm not buying it. Gary from Dallas, thanks for listening. You're on on the Chris Crock Show. My name is Jeff. It's Westside Jeff. Thanks for calling and listening. And what's your opinion? Gary must have hung up. Again, talking about TikTok, it's an interesting story to me, because our government for a while has told us it's a bad thing. And in order for TikTok to continue across the U.S., our government has deemed they want TikTok to sell to an American company. They want it to be American controlled. They want an American company involved. Well, if that's the case, then why aren't they saying that about Apple? Because iPhones are largely manufactured in China. And the amount of software you could build into a iPhone, the snooping software and the things that you could do in an iPhone are significant. Mark reached out to me on Facebook and put it in a different term. He said, "Hey, Jeff, I think you're spot on with the analysis of TikTok, because all other social media platforms, I believe, harvest our data and then either use it in their own advertising or sell it to whoever wants it. And there's really no privacy." What you need to know about digital advertising, being in the radio business, I follow digital stuff, and I can tell you what they do is when you're on social media, whatever social media platform, whether it be X, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, there's software out there that skims your social media, and Google and other social media platforms put together a kind of profile of who you are. For example, me, it knows that I'm married because I've posted about a wife and kids. They know social. If you scrub through all my social channels, you'll find out everything you want to know about me. Married, approximate income, drive a Honda Pilot. Wife has an Acura MDX. Both of them are used vehicles. I've got 2 dogs in the house. In the media type business. I mean, you can put a profile of me together. And that's why that data is available across advertising platforms, programmatic. So there are businesses that go in and say, I want to reach a guy, a man of this income level who's married, who lives in these higher income zip codes, whose income is between X and Y, who's a homeowner, who might have a mortgage or might not have a mortgage, and they'll target me. If you've ever wondered if your phone is listening to you, that's why you ask yourself, I swear my phone's listening to me. You've left a cookie trail across all your social media platforms, and these big tech giants like Google and the other platforms target you. Well, hell, if that's so dangerous and China doing that, then isn't that just as dangerous for Google or American platforms to do the same? Again, if TikTok is such a national security threat, then they'd ban all those other properties like iPhones, HP, Dell, Xbox consoles, because they could, quite honestly, are more dangerous. My name's Jeff. It's Westside Jeff. Love to hear your input, your feedback on that.